we say we believe in human rights, the developed world. We don't. We believe in citizen rights. That's what we really believe in, that if you're a citizen of this nation, then you are entitled to rights. If you haven't reached that status of citizens, like we're in ancient Rome or something, you a Roman citizen, you got to treat one way, everyone else you're treated another. And people like not exaggerate, they really think this. If you ask people, like the United States Constitution delegates how the state needs to treat you, and they're like, well, yeah, for citizens, like, no, it's for everybody. That's what it means. It's like, if you were in the United States and you're put on trial, you have the right to trial by jury. Like the United States government can't institute a cruel and unusual punishment if you're not an American citizen. I mean, like, that's what it's built for.
Yeah,
well, not supposed to. But see, honestly, that's actually
they're not supposed to.
So
you'll get a stern fist wagging if you do that.
No, you're exactly right, TJ. You're exactly right. It's in the end, it really is only a discussion about human rights. Like,
yeah, it should be. The Eighth Amendment is maybe my least favorite amendment because it's the vagueness of it. Like, what is a cruel and unusual punishment? That can be interpreted, because I guarantee you when James Madison wrote the Eighth Amendment, what his idea of cruel and unusual was far exceeds mine. He wouldn't think, putting you in stocks and tarring, if it's like, oh, that seems reasonable. Of course, no.
Yeah, tar and feather was normal.
Slavery.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that the language needs to be a lot tighter than the cruel and unusual punishment part. But yeah, it's go ahead, John.
I never even I never thought about this. I knew this, but I never thought about the fact that those words were written in the Constitution while slaves existed.
Right. Yeah.
Like that is so crazy. I know the entire slavery thing is crazy, but the fact that they wrote those words and it just did that,
dude, you know what? Can I say something kind of
new?
Like a new idea to me? Because, I came out of fundamentalist Mormonism, and when I was there in that religious space, the Constitution was inspired by God.
Mm-hmm.
The American Constitution came right from Jesus. He actually came down and he wrote it himself. Like, it's basically sacred. You can't, there's a religion. It's the American Constitution is its own religion. But the new thought that's dawning on me is that maybe it was just cruel and unusual punishment for other aristocrats. Maybe the whole fucking thing is for an upper class. Like, maybe the American Constitution was always just about the rich and the owners, the owning class and the aristocrats. Is that am I going too far there?
No, you are not. Because so there's this mythology that we have about the founding of the nation that first, it was an uprising of the common people who were being overtaxed by the British government. These peasant farmers were really concerned about the cost of tea taxes. Really, does that make sense to you? Does that really make sense that these illiterate fucking bumpkins gave a shit about how much tea cost in Boston? No, exactly. It was always a landowner's revolution, and the United States government was they were the big they were the kid who grew up away from dad. It's like, we don't need dad anymore. Why are we giving all this money to this tiny island across the ocean? We can run our own shit and keep the money ourselves. And that's exactly what they did. They needed.
But they're genocidal too. On top of all that, they're genocidal aristocrats.
Yeah. Genocide, yeah, and and the British government was moving away towards from slavery because they didn't need it in Great Britain, and the aristocrats in the southern United States were like, actually, we kind of like it. And the fact that you guys are talking about abolishing this is kind of scary towards us, but you're 100% correct when it comes to crafting the Constitution to keep power in the upper class. They don't even try to hide it, which is really funny. John, we talk about this, how we're really upset at the overuse of the, what's the phrase they use? The tyranny of the majority. They love saying that. And if you look at who wrote that, it was James Madison who said, well, when he was crafting the Senate, is that we need a body that's selected to protect the minority of the opulent. I always say for Republicans, that means rich, a minority of the opulent against the tyranny of the majority. He knew that if they had an actual democracy, the first thing the people would do was strip power away from the people who are rich and powerful. And they put up checks and balances or blocks to make sure, this idea that the George Washington, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson wanted regular people to start participating in. Are you kidding me? That they wanted these bumpkins showing up and sitting in the halls of Congress? If you would have asked them about women voting, they would have laughed you out of the
Yeah,
room.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
it would take you 10 minutes to convince them you were serious. Like they really thought that go ahead.
Women, blacks,
Black people,
the Irish,
the Irish,
The Irish.
the Irish.
I mean,
Yes,
the Native Americans,
Mhm.
like the whole everyone was excluded. It's like Christianity. It's kind of like waking up from Christianity.
Yeah,
The whole outside world is fucking evil, and they don't have rights.
yeah.
They don't have the right to vote or participate in a representative process. And really, the Constitution upholds this capitalist upper class that owns basic survival resources. And now let me say this though. Let me say this because I am a fucking Boy Scout. I am an Eagle Scout. Okay. I do have love for the country, and I do believe that like there was this progressive hope when the framers when these aristocrats were framing this new constitution, and that they did want to do a more earthy social experiment with voting.
Mhm.
And it was kind of an expanded version of democracy that went a little bit farther than feudal capitalism in Great Britain. So I'm not saying that America never was fundamentally good at all. Like there is this dream, there is this American thing, even if a lot of it's propaganda. A lot of people believe this freedom thing about America, but the other side of that same coin is it is propaganda, and the Constitution really is for the rich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
It's kind of a deeper thing to talk about.
No, it is, and the fact that that we trick ourselves into thinking it's something greater than it actually is very annoying to me because there, like you were saying, Rio, like there are for the 1780s, the Constitution was a fairly progressive document. Just in the fact that it was the first nation established without a state religion is massive. Like it's huge. That was huge step forward. And it did have voting rights for some folks. Some of the population, probably greater than you would have seen anywhere, like in Britain and everything like that. But people aren't content with that. They aren't content with the truth. They have to make it even greater than it actually was. That, like Thomas Jefferson, for example, was a slave owner and a child rapist, and that doesn't mean he didn't have good ideas. That doesn't mean everything he wrote was bad. But he was a misogynist and a rapist.
People genuinely struggle with that.
They do. They
do. And this isn't just like Democrats really fucking struggle. In fact, I think liberals struggle even more with the concept that a bad person can do good things and vice versa.
Oh, it's true.
Democrats don't understand this discussion that we're having right now. Generally, Democrats don't understand it at all.
Really?
What we're saying about the Constitution not being inspired, that it was made to basically kind of uphold class and keep people down. That's generally I don't hear it a lot in liberal spaces. That's all I'm saying.
They're afraid of being called filthy commies for saying the Constitution isn't anything, less than a God-written document. And I don't know, it is, I always say that if you want to pay respect to the founding fathers, do them the honor of remembering them as the human beings they were, not the gods that you create. Like it is much more noble and more honest to look at it through the framework of the truth than the framework of mythology. And one word that does not show up in the Constitution, for all the words that it does have, the one word you will not find is slavery. Not there. The word slave doesn't even appear in the Constitution. Like what it does, like when we're talking about the 3/5 compromise, it talks about individuals who are not free because they knew slavery was wrong. They were embarrassed by it. They didn't people in Europe, when they've heard about the Constitution and freedom. I can't remember. I think it was de Tocqueville who said that he found it ironic that the loudest cries for freedom came from the drivers of